they said. A taxi driver could never understand money. They laughed when he said, "One day, I'll own a bank." But 10 years later, he didn't just open an account there. He bought the bank itself. This is the unbelievable story of how one man turned daily rides into financial freedom. A story that proves you don't need a degree to understand money, just the courage to question how it works. Before we begin, remember this: every think rich tale you hear could be the one that changes your own. So hit that subscribe button, because stories like these aren't just about money. They're about transformation. His name was Daniel Cortez, a 34-year-old taxi driver in Chicago, 16 hours a day behind the wheel, just to keep his small apartment lights on. Every morning, he'd pick up the rich, business people, bankers, executives. And every night, he'd go home broke. He didn't hate his job. He hated not understanding why money never stayed. One night, after a passenger complained about interest rates and inflation, Daniel asked, "How do you even know all that?" The man smiled and said, "Because I don't drive for money. I make money drive for me." That line hit Daniel harder than the Chicago winter. The next day, Daniel did something strange. Instead of buying coffee, he bought a finance book from a second-hand store. It was called The Psychology of Money. He didn't understand most of it at first, but he kept reading. During breaks, at red lights, between rides, he began writing down every passenger's financial advice in a small notebook. Some were investors, some accountants, some just dreamers. Within a year, he had filled 4 notebooks. He realized something shocking. Rich people don't work for money. They make systems that work for them. That single truth became his obsession. Daniel started treating his taxi like a classroom. He asked questions, real ones. Why do people borrow more than they save? What makes a business profitable? How does credit actually grow? One day, a retired banker sat in his back seat. Daniel asked, "Sir, what's the biggest mistake people make with money?" The old man replied, "They think money is paper. It's trust. And trust is the real currency of banking." That single ride changed Daniel's vision forever. He realized a bank isn't just about money. It's about managing trust. And he thought, if I can make passengers trust me with their lives on the road, maybe I can make people trust me with their savings too. By now, Daniel had a plan. He started saving 20% of every fare, no matter how small. He stopped buying new clothes, skipped luxuries, lived frugally. In 5 years, he saved $27,000. He used that money to join an online finance course, learning about credit systems, interest structures, and micro-lending. But his biggest breakthrough came from his own passengers. He started offering ride-based micro-loans to other taxi drivers, borrowing from his savings and lending small amounts with 0 interest. He called it the Driver's Fund. Soon, hundreds of drivers joined. Then local investors noticed. When a small community bank in his area went bankrupt, Daniel saw an opportunity. Most people saw failure. He saw foundation. He met with former employees and offered to restructure the bank's model under his new vision. Small loans, honest terms, human trust. It sounded crazy. A taxi driver buying a bank. But the drivers who once borrowed from him now invested in him. Together, they raised enough funds to acquire that failing community bank. He renamed it Trust Miles Financial, a name born from the road that built him. In just 3 years, Trust Miles became one of the fastest-growing microfinance institutions in the Midwest. No suits, no fancy offices, just honest banking for hard-working people. Daniel introduced a rule. If we can trust a person to drive through the night to feed his family, we can trust him to pay his loan on time. He used technology to simplify lending, mobile-based verification, no paper loans, transparent interests. The media called him the taxi banker. But Daniel always said, "I didn't change my life by learning finance. I changed it by learning discipline." Daniel's story isn't about money. It's about understanding how money behaves. He didn't chase wealth. He studied it, respected it, multiplied it through trust. He proved that you don't need millions to start. You just need a mindset that says, "I will learn what others ignore." Today, he drives his car sometimes, not for income, but to remind himself where it all began. When people ask him, "How does it feel to own a bank?" he smiles and says, "It feels the same as driving a taxi, only now I decide where the journey ends." Every time you feel small, remember, the world's biggest revolutions started in small spaces. A garage, a kitchen, a taxi. If Daniel could turn a steering wheel into a bank, you can turn your struggle into your story. This is Think Rich Tales, where ordinary lives turn into extraordinary lessons. If you believe your story can be next, hit subscribe, share this video, and remember, you don't need to be born rich to think rich.